Hello, my beautiful listeners, and welcome back to the LifeVision Lab podcast, the space where we blend science, soul, strategy, and a lived human experience to help you step into alignment and clarity in every area of your life. If you've been with me for a while, you know how much I care about pulling back the layers, the real layers behind why we make the decisions we make, why we get stuck, overwhelmed, or disconnected, and how we can rebuild a life and identity that feels true, empowering, and aligned. Today's episode is such a special one because November is Financial Literacy Month here in Canada, and it aligns beautifully with the theme of this conversation: empowering ourselves through knowledge, awareness, and financial confidence. And to help us explore that, I'm joined by someone extraordinary, Amanda Cassar. Amanda is a dynamic financial expert, storyteller, speaker, global traveler, and honestly, the list goes on, and one of the most heart centered voices in the world of money, ethics, leadership, and the human side of finance. She brings over a decade of deep experience in financial planning, family business dynamics, wealth building, ethical investing, philanthropy, I'm going to say that right again, and something that matters deeply to me: financial abuse prevention. Worked with women leaders and traveled across Uganda, Malawi, and India as part of the Hunger Project. Wow. And she brings that global wisdom right into her work. And today she's here with us. How lucky are we? Amanda, welcome to the Life Vision Lab podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. What a great intro. I sound spectacular.
So, Amanda, before we dive into strategies, tips, and frameworks, I'd love to start with you. You've built this incredible body of work that blends the technical side of finance with a deep respect for human behavior, culture, and the emotional complexity behind money. So, my first question for you: can you share a moment or experience from your travels, your speaking work, or your time with the Hunger Project that deeply shaped the way you view money and financial empowerment?
Yeah, I think there was one story that stood out from my first trip with the Hunger Project, where we were meeting with women leaders who decided to embrace the education that was offered and were very proudly showing us what they'd built with their micro businesses, how many pigs they now had, or the chicken farms, or how they'd improved their
Mhm.
agriculture, and just the pride they had in the work of doing it for themselves. They'd accepted the hand up rather than the hand out. And that
Mm.
idea just really resonated with me when we were seeing the dignity and pride of people who'd helped themselves to get out of these issues. They were taking us into the surrounding areas, and one of the ladies we met hadn't embraced the Hunger Project's way, and she was telling us her story, which was completely heartbreaking. She had 3 children, which is unusual in Uganda. It's mostly around 7. She said her husband, in the understatement of the century, wasn't a very caring man who, when he left, sold the family mattress so that the wife and children would have to sleep on the dirt floor. All she was left with was her cooking pots and basically the clothes on their back. She would break rocks most of the time through the day for a living, getting paid around $1.50 a day for that. And then at night, she would try and make a local spirit, a form of alcohol that she could then sell
Mhm.
locally. She
Mhm.
had severe allergies to something she was doing. She'd been left with syphilis. She couldn't walk the 14 kilometres every day to pay the dollar a day for the medicine to cure herself. And she couldn't afford the pencils and books for her children to stay in school. So the power of finances, whether you have very limited means or a lovely Western lifestyle that, if they say if you've got $20 in your pocket, you're one of the wealthiest people in the world, percentage wise. It was that
Mhm.
dichotomy of, just because I was born in Brisbane, it's so humbling and refreshing and gives you that sense of perspective. Interesting to also see the place that education plays and the difference it
Mhm.
can make regardless of circumstances. Financial abuse is so insidious that even when you have nothing, people still take advantage, right through to the celebrity cases that we hear about.
Wow, that is so moving. Thank you for sharing that. You often speak about the intersection of money and human connection. So, for someone listening right now who feels overwhelmed or intimidated, how can they start building a relationship with money?
I think a lot of our relationship with money comes down to things we've heard growing up. If you ask most people and said, "What did your parents teach you about money?" the answer is usually resounding nothing. So
Mhm.
that's pretty normal. But we heard things. It was money is the root of all evil, or money doesn't grow on
Money doesn't grow on
yeah, it
trees.
takes money to make money. Only really bad people get ahead. Whatever those lessons were that we absorbed, I think it's worth sitting down and asking ourselves, do we still believe that? Are we teaching our children those things? Are we coming from an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset? Why would we do that? Is it just what we've heard? I think that self-reflection and examination, it's too hard. We put it away for another day. It's difficult to have those confronting discussions with ourselves, and even harder when we have a partner who we've never had that discussion with either. I mean, most people are lucky to ask, "Do you want kids one day?" Yes, no. Okay, we might have a good relationship here. Let alone, what were your beliefs about money? What did your parents teach you? How did you grow up thinking? So you end up with these people who are spenders or hoarders or coercive control because they're so frightened about money. I think examining where those beliefs started and came from is a really great place. Confronting, but worth doing.
Yeah, and I think I've gone through my own period of confronting my beliefs, Amanda, where I realized I have an abundance mindset to make money. So I have every confidence that I know my worth and I know how much I can make. But what I realized in the recent past is I don't know how to manage money. I don't know how to grow money. And I'm just so blindly reliant on my husband to do that. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make money. And then your job is to figure out how to spend the money and how to grow the money. And for me, I think it was a wake up call because I was going to go on a solo trip and I had to do all the planning and the budgeting, and I'd never done one in my life. I'm not sure how much you're aware of the Indian culture, but a girl is always told, don't succeed more than your husband. Don't make more money than your husband. Heck, don't even have a career because you got to keep, you're the glue to keep the family together. And these are all the different conditionings that become part of your growing up as a girl. For me, I kept thinking, I'm lucky I get to even have a career. And then you get to know, but why do I think I'm lucky? I'm capable, so I should be having a career. And so now I've gone through my own series of sort of realization to finally come to a point where my next goal is to, yes, I make all this money, but how do I budget, plan, and build my wealth and work towards building generational wealth? If you're really smart about money, you can build generational wealth. In that whole planning, what is it that you can give back to the world? We are so self absorbed and scared about the conversation around money that we fail to look beyond just our situation. So, for you, what does financial literacy actually mean in today's world?
I think you've uncovered a few really big things in that, because people have all these different ideas about money. Money can be freedom, money can be the devil's
Mhm,
tool, money can be used for good or bad. I think throw all that away. It's just a
mhm,
tool, and how you
mhm.
use it. I mean, a hammer can be used or good or bad. Like it's one of those things. It's how you choose to take that tool and use it. So yeah, let's stop the stereotypings that we have and go, right, if this is just a tool, where can I use it to get the best outcome from me? We know a hammer's best outcome is to help us build homes. So with the money,
Yes.
how can that help us? Is it building a home that we want? Is it building wealth for our family? Is it providing opportunities when things go bad that we have a backstop? Is it being able to give back to those less fortunate than we are, with the philanthropy? So I think starting to understand that if this tool was in abundance for me, what would I like to do with it? If I wasn't always living week to week or looking for the next dollar,
Mhm.
what would that look like? So I think that's a really valuable conversation to have with ourselves, that if it's just a tool, then how do I want to use that tool?
That's amazing. I love how you put that. As I said in the beginning, since November is the financial literacy month here in Canada, And globally, we're seeing more emphasis on financial empowerment, which I love. At some point, like you said, I think we need to have schools teaching this. And I see a lot of schools here in Canada doing it already. What are the most common gaps you see, even amongst high achievers, professionals, or business owners?
I think the fact that they're not examining or having a plan. We're all busy these days. We live in this crazy world where every minute's taken. So to sit down and work out, I'm going to be the boss of this tool. I'm going to work out where it's going. Usually, what comes in goes out. There's just that flow. If we've got something left over, yay, we might go out for dinner Friday night if we're lucky. So I think being much more in control of it. People hear the word budget and their eyes just glaze over. They're like, oh, I can't do it. I never know what I'm getting. I don't know how my bills work, or, that one's monthly and that one's weekly. It's all too hard. Whereas I think if we call it something that matters to us, whether it's an adventure fund or a future freedom fund or a travel, whatever's important to us, I think we need to just rebrand it in our heads that I'm not budgeting. I'm in control of my money and I'm working towards a particular goal. I think that is much more empowering. If we know, say, I want to go to Bali next Christmas, I'm going to need $5,000. What's that going to cost me over that 12 months? And if that's $91 a week, can I afford to set that aside? Or actually, Christmas is next month, I want to go. Is there any way I can put that 5,000 aside? Probably not. So then it's the goal. Okay, it becomes much more achievable for next year. But you know what? If I actually don't have that $91 left over, then I've got some decisions to make. Do I chop Netflix subscription for 12 months to help add to that? Do I work an extra shift? Do I cut back on luxuries in my groceries? How do I make that goal happen? It starts those conversations in ourselves where we can examine, actually, you know what? That's more important to me than coming home and sitting in front of Netflix for an hour every single night, or 2 or 3. It's what's important to us, and it's easier not to go out on Friday night and have $20 cocktails or 4 or 5 of those, because that's the $100 that we wanted to put towards our trip. So it makes it much more easy for us to say yes and no and work out what's important when trying to get to somewhere. So it could be that credit card bill has been around for so long. I've only got 4,000 on it. I'm just paying the minimum. It is really important to me that. So it's what is it? And I think starting with those little goals is really important. We've got the bigger ones as well. We want a house deposit. We want to have time off work to have children. My aging parents are going to need help. How am I going to fund being off work to do that? So there's really big stuff that happens in our lives, but there is the smaller stuff as well. And I think once you get there, if you go, that credit card was costing me $50 a month, I'm going to put an extra 50 on it. And then once that's finished, that extra 100 I can put towards something else. So you're actually compounding the effects of what you're doing, because then that 100 can move to something else. And when that one's paid off, you might have been putting an extra 50 on that. So, then suddenly when you're debt free, that can go to savings. It can go to your retirement plans. It can go towards paying down your home loan. It can go towards your children's education or giving back, whatever it is that's important to you. And usually philanthropy sort of comes about in our lives because we're impacted by something. Our child gets a disease, our parent gets something we've never heard of. There's a thing in the community that we'd like.
Or you experience something.
Yeah, I've gone through whatever it is that I want to then support that particular charity. And some people, you may not be able to support it in your lifetime, but perhaps you could pay a small amount to an insurance policy that will leave a legacy for that charity. So we start thinking outside the box. You know what? $20 a month won't make a difference to them, but if I pay $20 a month for an insurance policy that's $500,000 or 100,000, that might make a difference to that charity. So we can start thinking about how do we give back in different ways when we're in control.
Beautiful. I love everything you covered. And I smiled when you spoke about we'd rather binge Netflix than actually spend time thinking about our budgeting. I think there's neuroscience behind it, right? We're chasing dopamine so much every day. When you binge watch, it's that sudden surge in dopamine that you get. But when you're talking about delayed gratification, which is what financial planning is, you have no dopamine left because you're constantly using it to binge watch and indulge in instant gratification. We don't have patience enough anymore for that delayed gratification.
Yeah, and it's probably a bigger dopamine hit when you start achieving those goals because you have that
Yeah.
delayed gratification. So that
Yes.
day you can cut up the credit card and it's gone forever. For some people, getting rid of that one can start that snowball effect. So it's a pretty powerful tool when we use it correctly to be able to go, right, one night a week or one night a month and start on this. We don't have to buy a special book or do a course. There is so much free information online that can support. The Australian government has a site called Money Smart or similar government services where it's all sitting there. You just enter in the information.
Mhm.
And if it's too hard,
Mhm.
fine, go away, walk away. When you got that latest rates notice or the insurance bill, put that information in, making sure that you're staying on top of it. How do you eat an elephant? It's that one bite at a time. I made a start
Yes.
tonight.
Yes. And what would you say if you give someone one place to start this month? One simple action. What would it be?
I think the most powerful thing is to know your numbers. So if your pay cycle is weekly or fortnightly, know in that pay cycle what it costs you to get up every day and live. I'm talking, what are your groceries? What is 152 52nd out of your car registration or your rates? I know the rates in Canada are disproportionately higher than Australia.
Mhm. Mhm.
What does it cost each week when you break those annual bills down? So whether your number's 473 or 1,294, what does it cost you each week just to get up and live? Because if you know that, then what you're earning, you can work out, is it enough or do I have to make some changes? And for a lot of people, that scares them. So I think that control of knowing that, okay, each pay period I make 1,500, 3,000, whatever it is. If my number
Mhm.
is less than that, bingo, bravo, I've got money I can put somewhere else. If it's not, okay, I've got to either go back to where I'm spending that money and make some changes. I either need to ask for a pay rise, I need a second job, whatever the case is, how
Mhm.
sell some old stuff I'm not using. Again, it just gives us that control. And I know it sounds confronting and hard, but I think being in control with finances puts you in the driver's seat because then you're
Mhm.
making the decisions about, okay, that's all the stuff I want. Maybe it is out of hand. And good old fashioned housekeeping in our grandparents' days did mean we can't have that this week. I'm not getting the
Mhm.
creams, whatever it is. And with the cost of living crisis, everything's gone stupid expensive. It may mean that
Mhm.
old fashioned tighten your belt and go without something, which we're just not used to depriving ourselves anymore.
Yeah. I think it's because there's so much choice now. There's so much instant gratification with social media, Netflix, technology. Everything's at our fingertips now, right? Online shopping, e commerce. I think we've forgotten what it really means to work towards something. And the mental resilience is also declining because of that. I love that that's the first step. Know what you earn and what you spend for a given week. That's a great starting point.
Yeah, just knowing your numbers. I think what you've touched on there, like I often use the old fashioned example of a lay-by. I think
Mhm.
we'd put it aside at the lay-by counter, which doesn't even exist. I don't know what the Canadian version of that was. And, every week or two, you'd go out of your pay and you give a little bit until you paid it off. And then you got whatever you'd purchased. It was just brilliant. I'm so proud of myself. I've done the right Zip Pay, Afterpay, Klarna, buy now, pay later schemes. You get the instant gratification, you forget what you've even bought, and 2 months down the track, you're still making those payments going, "I can't even remember what that one was about because 'cause I've got 3 or 4 on the go because it's easier to pay them off over 4 times than." And it's like, "What was that one about?" Oh, I think that working towards something and the gratification of I did good and getting the item was a lot more valuable an experience than, "Yeah, get it now, forget about it," and then go, "I've still got bills. What are these bills for?" So
And I think there's a misunderstanding around the abundance mindset, right? A lot of us think, yes, there's abundance and there's enough for everyone, enough and more for everyone, but that doesn't mean the enough and more is just to lose out on that delayed gratification and actually enjoying the value of everything you purchase.
it doesn't mean be reckless either. Energy's flowing and it's coming back to me. There still has to be realism. If you're not earning the amount of money, just going, it'll turn up one day because I've got an abundance mindset and I'm going to go and buy those $1,000 pair of shoes. That's reckless and stupidity. That's not an abundance mindset.
Yes, yeah.
So understanding the difference is also really, really important.
And it was important I raise it because I've heard a lot of people in the modern spiritual community that talk about abundance mindset, deserve everything, we're worth everything. And then you can see that they're going quite crazy and reckless with their spending. And then come the end of the month, they're like, oops, we didn't realize that this is how much I need to pay the
Give
credit
me a
card.
$3,000 bonus to cover this as
I
much as I
love
ask.
that. I want to shift gear a little bit. Very important topic, Amanda. And this is something that doesn't get talked about enough. And I'm truly grateful you've become the leading voice in this space. Can you define financial abuse for our listeners? What does it look like in the real world situation?
It's basically where another person uses money and finances to control the behavior of another. Often it's
Mhm.
intimate partners or children and
Mm.
parents. It could be a husband who has a stay at home wife. He's the breadwinner. He will only dole out, here's your $200 a week. You have to make the groceries last and, put the children in clothes and get them to school out of this money. It could be the micromanagement of finances. In the old days, you had to give all your receipts over. These days, it's I need access to your app so I can see where everything's going. It can be in different cultures that are very patriarchal, where the women are forced to work in family businesses for absolutely no return, which in most countries is illegal. They may forbid education of especially the women and girls so they don't better themselves or have the capacity to earn and learn. In elderly patients, it can often be that money goes disappearing from dad's wallet or the nightstand or inheritance. It's like mum said, I was going to get that plate when she died, so I'm just going to take it now. Those kinds of things where we're not acting in our loved one's best interest. So I think a lot of it comes down to intention. We're out for ourselves and we're not putting the interest or welfare of the other person first. In Australia now, many states have even banned or outlawed what they call coercive control, where you're
Mm.
using these manipulative means to get yourself ahead at the disadvantage of the other person. So some states it comes under domestic violence law, and others it's a standalone crime now.
Every example you just shared, I can think of one person who's going through it.
Wow.
Someone in my community, every single one of them. And it's done so subtly, Amanda, that you don't even realize it until you actually openly spoke about it right now. What are some early signs people or their loved ones should watch out for?
As dumb as it sounds, I think that feeling that something isn't right and we don't pay enough attention to our intuition. Um,
Mhm.
I remember there was a big case in Australia where a woman with 3 girls went missing, and the husband was very vocal and joined in the search. It turned out he had actually murdered her. It was all around financial abuse. He had been coercively controlling her for many years. Her parents had noticed she'd be wearing the same pair of shoes all the time and they were kind of scuffed and worn out and it was all she had. They noticed one time he actually took her credit card away from her and she never got it back. And the girls didn't have new things ever. So they just thought, look, it's a marital issue. It's none of our business. That's how they do things in their marriage. And when she was finally murdered, I mean, I hate to say financial abuse and coercive control can be a precursor to homicide. I don't know how to sugarcoat that. I don't know how to make it sound any nicer, but it can be a precursor. So I think taking it seriously for starters is really important. Another lady I knew who was an investigative journalist, a friend of hers, was watching the case at the time. She was reporting on it in the Brisbane law courts. And she wrote to this friend and said, this guy is your husband waiting to happen. You need to get out. That's a very brave statement to make when you're watching a murder case unfold. But it's an incredibly loving and brave thing to do to call out to your friends. Look, I've seen this behavior. It makes me really uncomfortable. Are you okay? I feel sad,
Hmm.
angry, happy, disturbed, distressed when I see XYZ because I know it can lead to other things, because I don't think you're as happy as you were. I miss going out with you or whatever it may be. I think that pattern of I feel when because is a really lovely way of approaching our friends. Works great in a marriage with kids too. But it's not that threatening. I can't stand what Tom's doing to you. I hate it when he won't let you come out with me. The person's going to get defensive and pull back and probably not confide in you. Whereas if it's, I feel really sad when Tom doesn't let you come out anymore because we used to have such a lovely time together. I'm talking about my feelings and what I've observed. So becoming that safe place for someone who may be in a lot deeper than we actually know, because by the time you see it on the outside, chances are it's been going on a lot longer than we know. So being that safe place and going, look, if you ever want to talk, it just doesn't seem right. I'm happy to be that person. And I'd rather risk losing a friend because I didn't say something.
Thank you, Amanda, for sharing that. For advisors, coaches, or leaders listening, how can they support someone who may be experiencing financial abuse and help them move from survivor to thriver? Because they need to choose it too, Amanda. You can't really get into their business, like you said, right? If someone listening today, including me, how can we support someone who may be experiencing financial abuse?
I think being that safe person, knowing that somebody else has recognized what happened when often they don't want to admit it to themselves because this person loves me. Why would they do that to me? That I'm just making it up. I'm overreacting. It can be, oh, you didn't put your $20 in for the pizza last week, right through to this person's got the old shoes. Don't see them buy nice stuff anymore. I think financial professionals are in a really privileged position because they get to witness the relationships. A husband and wife might come into my office and sit down and want to discuss financial planning, but every time I ask her a question, he talks over the top of her. He might belittle what she says. She's not allowed to have goals. She worries too much. She doesn't understand. I think they're not necessarily bad, but they're potential red flags. Like you said earlier, women can often delegate, oh, he's better at that than I am. You're opening yourself up because you're not being involved in your own money and your own decisions. That's also a very normal family dynamic. He's better at it than me. She's better at me. They'll do it. And most families, that's normal. But I think still having those joint goals, having individual goals is really important. Pardon me. And that professionals start recognizing early those little red flags. I think when they see it, that's when it can become tricky because most of them aren't mandated reporters. They're not trauma-based trainers. They don't have often a skill set of a psychologist or a finance person to recognize what's going on. There's also no cookie cutter approach that if you follow these 3 or 4 dots, it's all fixed. And many people choose to stay in financially abusive and coercive relationships because it's not just about them. There's children to think about. And there may be domestic violence as well that we don't know about. We have to be sensitive, recognize the signs, record everything we see in our own notes. If we don't know what to do, refer it. Make a call to the elder abuse hotline or the financial abuse hotline in your area and go, look, I've seen this. I don't know if it's anything. It doesn't feel right. Is there something going on there? What should I do? So we're recognizing it, and they don't have all the answers either. But I think the fact that we're starting to take some notes and even saying to the person, I was a bit uncomfortable when Bill kept belittling you or putting you down the other day. I'd really love to hear your goals or what your vision is. A separate phone call when the other's not around. It's a very individual thing. And if we're witnessing fraud, we may need to go to the police. Your job is to still act in the client's best interests.
Yes.
I think financial professionals need to be a lot more aware of the signs because they're pretty subtle. I mean, the abuser doesn't want to go, I'm abusing her. I don't want her to have any access to anything.
And most often, the abuser probably has a story he or she is telling themselves too that they're right because of their own conditioning, upbringing, exposure, trauma, whatever the case may be. They're not going to be like, I know I'm abusing this person. Most often, they don't even know they're doing it.
I know another financial advisor who deals exclusively with divorced and divorcing couples. When she went through some of the behaviours that had triggered the divorce, the husband just went, I didn't have a clue. I didn't even know. I didn't know that was a problem for her. I thought I was just running our finances, but it was completely without her. And so she felt completely ignored in the relationship, that nothing she did mattered. In the end, she's just like, I've had enough and I'm out. And he's like, what did I do? So I think even communication between couples is really difficult, let alone hearing things from somebody else.
When it comes to family enterprises, working with families, inheriting a business, or transitioning wealth, what creates the most conflict?
Family.
Yes.
Family
And I
dynamics.
think very self centered intentions, right?
Yeah, I've worked with my parents and now my children work with me. When I worked with my parents, I found it easy to leave mum and dad at the door and they became John and Christine in the office. My
Mm.
children cannot do that. I am mum all the time. They couldn't call me Amanda. So in our family business, it's like now clients will ring in and go, "Can you put your mum on?" It's not, "Where's Amanda?" Um, so it depends what works in each family. I think, especially when you're talking about inherited and intergenerational businesses, bringing an outsider or an expert in family business is valuable because it helps you have the facilitated conversations that you know you should, but you're too afraid to have,
Mm.
that sets the expectations, sets this is what we imagine your role looks like. What do you think your role looks like? These are
Right.
usually chalk and cheese. The person who's running the
Mhm.
business is what I want you to do. And the other person's like, well, that's not what I want to do. So just
Right.
those very basic conversations can avoid so much drama. If you do what you'd like and you're really good at it, that may add value and we can hire someone to do what I expected you to do. Or is there someone else in the family who's ideally suited to that role? So putting the round pegs in the round holes, which often we don't think about. It's like, well, this needs to be done, you do that. And having those, again, open communication, I think everything comes back to that, doesn't it? Which we all find
Yeah.
difficult.
And it's with family that we find difficult, which is interesting.
I think when people go through divorce, they find out more from their friends and family about their own and their partner's behavior, what people think about them they ever did during the relationship. It's like, why did
Because
nobody tell
everyone's like
me?
so scared to say because they feel like they don't want to be the reason to break them apart, right?
Yeah. And it's none of our business. And there's all those social mores about what it is, but we sort of feel it's okay to say it later on. But I think perhaps if more people said, that's not quite, that was a bit weird.
Yes.
Differently to how we do things, or and I think again, even advisors can set those expectations when they first meet clients. We love to have beautiful relationships with our clients and work towards their joint goals. We're setting expectations of what we want our relationship with our clients to look like as well. I've even put on my terms and conditions now under the respect and protect that what I give and say and give as advice is not to be used for financial abuse. It's part of my terms and conditions now that there will be consequences. You will
Mm.
not be my client anymore if you use what we do in a way that it wasn't meant to be. So I think more advisors signing up to those respect and protect rules, and over 60 businesses worldwide have now signed up to that as well, that their services and products should not be used for financial harm of another person.
And that's so important to integrate into our businesses and actually walk the talk, right? Especially in the financial industry, when we say we want to help support families grow their wealth, not just look at one side of it, but also speak about the dark side of financial abuse that comes with it. You've traveled the world and worked with communities across so many cultures. How has it shaped the way you think about leadership and ethical money practices?
I think I've learned that often look up to people who we view as leaders, whether it's political figures or figures in the
Mhm.
media, whoever it may be. But leadership often doesn't come from those places. People
Mhm.
who step up in a moment when they're needed, who we might not expect to. The person who runs into the burning building to save the child or whatever it may be. I think that idea of leaders are born, not made, I'm not sure that that's
Mhm.
so true. I think people can lead in various different ways in their own homes, in their communities. They're little quiet achievers who get things done. So the idea of leadership has changed from me, from the Mother Teresa's and the politicians, to it could be Bill the firefighter. It could be my husband when he takes the lead in doing something. It can be just people in our community who are filling roles that need to be filled because it brings them joy and they
Mhm.
want to give back. You don't have to be big and bold and making these enormous waves in the world. You can be the best
Mhm.
leader in your own family, the best leader in your church group, in your community, in your business, without having even a title. You don't need the kudos and the recognition to make that difference. I think the people who are the true leaders are the ones who step up when they're needed.
Amazing. I love you said that because that's everything I talk about in Life Vision Lab. And It's something that I talk about in every episode. Don't wait for a title to be a savior or to save the day. You have to see yourself as a leader every single day. Right. And that's so important. Let's shift gear to your travel now, Amanda. You've had a very exciting life traveling around the world. And your travel stories are incredible, from diving in Fiji to trekking in the forest. How has travel influenced your relationship with money or the way you advise clients?
I think travel gives you that brick to the side of the head dose of perspective. That when we're in our little worlds, we're so caught up in everything. Whereas when you travel, you see how everybody lives, and everybody does just love their family and want to do better for them. And I think 90% of the world, it's not about racism or hurting somebody. It's just, how can I improve my life and my family's? And, we're all just people trying to get through every single day. So I think that's the beautiful part of travel. And yes, there's rat bags in the world. Absolutely. I've just recently heard about the sextortion scams that are going, where people have been sex trafficked into Cambodia, and there's now compounds with 400,000 people living there, forced to pull scams on young children who, send a nude pic to someone thinking it's the girl in the next street or the next school. And all of a sudden, these 17-year-old kids are killing themselves because of these scams. There are bad people out there, of course, but I think education, again, in that place. I'm just writing a book for teens and money at the moment to discuss those scams and how do we avoid them. So
Mhm.
travel opens your eyes to new experiences, beautiful people, lovely cultures, incredible food, great views. It is that beautiful dose of perspective. And I think realizing, we often think we're the center of the universe because our whole world revolves around us. Whereas when you go out there and
Listen.
go, actually, there's 8 billion people just like me. It's that lovely dose of perspective that you get, that, we aren't the center of the universe. There's lots of people out there better off than us. There's a lot of people out there worse than us. And
Oh.
as long as we're doing right by the people we love, we're making our difference in our own little worlds.
Do you feel travel can make us more financially conscious or even more generous?
I hope so. So I guess it's how we view, I mean, it is part of the culture of some areas, and just embracing that, even if we're a bit uncomfortable with it. Knowing and understand, I think it makes us more aware of where we put our philanthropic money if we do want to give back. Are we actually making a difference, or is it going into the coffers of the CEO who owns the Learjet, who likes to fly around? Is the
Mhm.
money going where it's needed, and is the impact it's providing really important? So I think it helps you to ask those questions and answer what's important to me if I'm going to be giving back, where I direct my money. Most of us think charity starts at home and we'll just keep it there. But if we do want to
And
give back,
that's okay too.
yeah, but
Like you said, the minute you begin to get more conscious with budgeting and planning, and you just learn to expand your view of what are the different things you can do.
and again, it's that tool. And it's like, okay, if I want to use some of that tool, if I won't miss that $20 a month, where can I put that? Where can that make a difference somewhere else? And you always get more out of giving than you get back. It's
For sure. 100%.
it's a very
Yeah.
selfish thing in the end, because the joy it brings to you really outweighs the loss of the 20 or $30.
But that's the irony of giving that people still don't get, right? The more you give, the more you get. Like you said, it's a tool. What goes out comes in. So the more you make space for money to come in, the more it's going to continue, and then you expand. At least that's the way it's worked in my life. Where's your next trip?
I'm off to Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos from Boxing Day. I'm taking 2 weeks to travel through a bit of Southeast Asia with hubby. 3 countries I haven't been to before, because I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Vietnam. People, the food, the culture, the sights, everyone says are completely amazing. In Cambodia, seeing the fabulous temples there
Yes,
has been a bucket
that's on my
list
bucket list
for a
too.
while, so ticking that one. And also in Laos, the incredible waterfalls and sites that they have there. So yeah, just a little part of the world that I haven't been to, that I'd love to see. Countries do have the most beautiful people and the happiest and the best cultures, and you do come away knowing that your tourism dollars have helped enrich a culture. The people you meet along the way have added so much value to your life if you just stop and have a chat. So
Yeah, amazing. I wish you safe travels. So let's give people something tangible for Financial Literacy Month. If I rapid fire a few categories, what's the simplest, most actionable tip you'd give budgeting? What makes it easier and less overwhelming?
Throw out the income and just work out what it costs you to live. Don't get worked up about what you make, work out what it costs you to get up and breathe every day.
Saving for retirement, what should people prioritize?
I think you want to make sure that future you is going to thank current you for the decisions that you're making instead of going, you didn't really need that handbag. That could have been compounding 20 years. So making very mindful decisions about our purchases and prioritizing experiences and our future selves over stuff is really important because the stuff will end up
I
in a
love
charity.
that.
We'll forget we had it. Whereas it could have made a
100%.
difference to our retirement fund.
Amazing. Ethical investment, what should someone know before diving in?
I think if it's something you're not educated in, start reading,
Mm.
learn about it. If a financial advisor recommends investments to you because you're outsourcing, still do your research. Look up the particular investments that have been recommended. Most financial professionals know what they're talking about and recommend top funds, but it still doesn't hurt you to understand where you are. You can't then go, well, I didn't understand. I just did what he said. Don't do the blame game and become the victim. Actively be a part of your own financial future.
Staying on track with financial goals, what really works?
I think having a goal for starters, not many people do. It's like, yeah, my goal is one day I'll get here, or yeah, I'm going to see Angkor Wat one day. How does it work? What's the goal? When will I get? How much is it going to cost me? What does it look like? Am I going to do the luxury tour? Am I going to do the backpacker tour? So is it going to cost me $5,000 or $50,000? What is the goal and what's the frame? Would they say a goal without a deadline is just a dream?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think I'll do that one day and one day never comes. So actually having written down goals is the first step to making them come true.
How can people be intentional without feeling financially stretched?
Once you know your numbers, you will know if there is anything left from a surplus that you're able to give, or if you're stretched, you may be your first charity. It may be that you need to get yourself out of some debt first. So you can be your first charity. If there is a surplus, research some of the funds you'd like to give at. It is supporting something at home or close to you, local or in your country. Are you passionate about children? Is it about animals? Do you have a cultural heritage that started somewhere else like you with India? Is there particular charities in India that you would love to support? So I think being intentional about where it's going makes it much easier and more fulfilling. Do you want to get something out of it as well? Do you want to be able to visit the particular orphanage? Do you want to be able to see trees growing in the forest that you planted? Is there something that you want to be able to take away, or are you happy to just hand it over? I think all those questions will make the giving intentional and easier.
Amanda, your work beautifully blends money with values, purpose, and humanity. So, one final question for you. If someone's listening right now and thinking, I want to be better with money, but I feel behind, I feel overwhelmed or ashamed, even, what would you say to them?
I think education is the best way to start. There's so many books and tools out there. Please stay away from unlicensed finfluencers on TikTok. There's real information available. And it could be just starting with, how do I do a budget? I've never done one. I heard about them in school. They sound really boring. What do I need to know? How do I get online and look up that? So if money's something that, you've struggled with, perhaps going on a mindful journey with money is a way you'd like to take. There's people who money coach from a mindfulness space. It's whether somebody else thinks that's completely woo-woo and ridiculous and wants to know the bare, hard, cold facts. We all learn and absorb differently. Find out what your money style is and start reading and researching before you make any big decisions.
Yeah. And you make it sound easy. Just begin somewhere. And what's the legacy you hope your work creates in the world?
I'd love to think that shining the spotlight on financial abuse starts creating change. And I believe in some places it already is. The fact that it's becoming outlawed in my own country, that more
Mm.
banks, even the associations of financial advisors, are talking about it a lot more now to raise awareness among professionals who may or may not have ever come across it before. And suddenly they're
Mm.
starting to go, maybe that is a sign. The awareness on this coercive control. And I think COVID also raising people home struggling, it made it more difficult for many. But the more we can educate ourselves on it, and even people who wouldn't like to consider themselves abusers who are, understanding that perhaps that behaviour is controlling or it's something they've witnessed in their own parents' life and are just repeating. How do you break that cycle? How can you educate yourself to go, actually, I can't have that conversation with my partner. I'd like to be able to talk about it instead of just being the takeover merchant. So those kind of things, questioning ourselves, bit of self-awareness.
Mm. Amanda, thank you so much for being here today, for your wisdom, your global perspective, and your heart. This conversation is such a powerful reminder that money is more than numbers. It's safety, choices, boundaries, empowerment, and impact. And to everyone listening, as we move through Financial Literacy Month, take one tiny step towards clarity. Awareness itself is power. If today's episode resonated with you, feel free to reach out to Amanda and drop me a comment on what resonated from this episode. I'm always looking forward to hearing all your stories and how some of the things we talk about resonate with you. As always, thank you for being here, for choosing growth, and for showing up for your life with courage and curiosity. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.